Randolfe, welcome on this snowy day with your mucklucks. Let's see if maybe we get a chance to show people that and everything. So good to see you. And in the audience, welcome very much to Conversations on this snowy day in the end of February. We're talking with Randolfe Wicker. We've talked with in the past. We got him billed here as a polymath, which I think is very great honorific. That means he's got a very wide-ranging interest rather than highly specialized. And he's also down as, what's the second thing we got you down as?
Multifaceted activist.
Multifaceted activist, both of which bespeak a wide-ranging interest. He's also very interested in, a lot of people know, in terms of gender issues and that sort of thing. Randolfe, welcome. It's so good to see you again on the set.
It's wonderful to be back.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. And you came in on this very snowy day.
Oh, what a day.
And did we bring it? You brought along... show the folks how you came to be here.
These I got back in the 70s in Canada. They're called mucklucks.
Yeah, hold it up so they can see.
And what they really are nothing but a black rubber boot with fake fur glued on top of them. And what's great about these is that your feet stay entirely dry, and you can wade through water up to here and not get a drop on you. Meanwhile, all the people, even people that have rubbers on their shoes or galoshes, are tippy-toeing around these puddles as we have today.
But now you can't wear these over your shoes. Like you got
no, I brought these
you have
in
to
a
bring
bag.
the shoes separately. But this is this is from the Eskimo and from the Inuit.
Right, and in Canada they make you leave them outside for good reason, because after you bring them in, I just cleaned up a puddle of water.
Right,
it's water drained.
When you got all that. Well, that was very wise, and it totally dry inside.
And people have a funny reaction.
Yeah.
No one. You're the first person that knew what they were.
Oh yeah.
I have kids come up and say Bigfoot.
Sasquatch.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Well, that's I don't know how the heck they can do it. It goes 40 and 50 and 60 below zero. How in the world people can live in that kind of a climate, I do not know. I have a hell of a time getting to 8th Avenue when it's 35 degrees.
I don't go out when it's under 20 degrees.
Yeah, right.
I live on the internet.
Yeah, right.
Until it becomes human outside again.
Yeah,
bearable.
It's very interesting. They just had a thing where they found a new person in Greenland where it was they were able to get the genome from some hair that remained of a 4,000-year-old person in Greenland. They could reconstitute him, what he looked like and so forth, and he wasn't Inuit and he wasn't Native American. You know, he'd come over from Beringia or something. It's just interesting how much we're coming to learn the differences there are. But why did those people stay? Why didn't they move south where it was nice and warm or something?
Well, some of them did. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
I guess that's true, isn't it? Right in the. Listen, share a little bit your own background, because one of the things you are, we're in video here, and you are a video pioneer. You have a lot of things on the internet, and share your own background. If you would, please, because it goes back to the early 70s.
Actually, in the 60s.
I
was active in the sex freedom movement, the legalized pot movement, the gay liberation movement, and in the late 60s I became an anti-war button activist. I put out all these buttons like Dump Johnson in 68. It was a slogan I coined.
Okay.
So I made a little money in that and got a lot of publicity, but unfortunately the business only lasted 5 years.
Yeah.
And I took the first sizable sum of money I had and went to Harvey's Radio and spent $3,000 in 1969, which is equivalent to $10,000 or $12,000 a day, to the first portable CV video.
I'll be darned, right.
And in those days, people did not have VCR. Some of the historic tapes...
No, there wasn't anything, no.
Some of the historic tapes I have are actually stuff I taped off of TV shows that no one else bothered saving. If people go back to look for some early appearance, like David Susskind showed during the 60s and 70s, the TV stations didn't bother saving them.
They used to have kinescope before there was videotape. I remember meeting Peter Goldmark Sr., and he invented videotape. Wow. And that was at a transition thing, because the only thing they had to preserve those early programs in the 50s was a thing called kinescope, which was essentially a film process. But I believe he was the inventor of it. That was his son became head of the Port Authority and everything. And he had a secretary named Bonnie. We did a program, but he invented it. And so we were off to the races when the Portapack came, and you could make television.
In the 60s, they made the first portable small unit for consumers called CV, and they put them in high schools.
Yeah, you told me that. That was
suddenly,
early.
Instead of needing a $100,000 machine, you could go out with this portable machine and videotape and create a viewable video of things in the world. And this was really empowering the ordinary person. person.
That was called a CV.
Right, right.
Okay, that was before the Porta-Pack.
No, that was the first Porta-Pack.
Oh, that was the first
Right.
thing they called the first Porta-Pack.
Right. And they found it was very durable. And
Uh-huh.
for that reason, it started being adopted by schools, and it's got an inroad in places like here at MNN. Cable television were created, and people were able to create their own video outside the studio, not just coming inside the studio to make their videos.
Yeah, and we just had a meeting the other day with C.T. Louis, who's a friend of everybody in video. He's been around. He's from China originally, jumped ship, was here illegally.
I used to buy tape from him in 1970.
Absolutely. He's been there forever, and he knew everybody, both within the industry and in the artistic community of the new people who are experimenting with. You were one of those. You knew a lot of those people. But he's got all this equipment, and it's true. We've come into a whole new context of communication, which is just roughly called multimedia, where you're using all of your sensory capability and you have a multimedia capability to communicate, and that's characteristic, and we didn't have that before the Porta-Pack or before the CV, as you say.
And what's amazing, now it's become inexpensive enough with cell phones. You can see videos from Iran when they're having protests.
I know, great quality.
And consumer or viewer produced video is actually merging with major media, because if you film something on YouTube, like the guy who filmed the governor candidate in Virginia who called somebody macaca.
Yeah, that's right.
And that literally changed that election.
That's right. He lost in Virginia.
And other people you put on YouTube. And
not to mention Rodney King out in California. Remember when the police beat up on Rodney King?
That was home video.
And that was a home video thing where you could... And if he had just been beaten up like people are beaten up with alarming regularity, you wouldn't have any record of it.
And even in entertainment, someone puts something on YouTube, and if they manage to make it viral, in other words, if it gets a lot of attention, they get catapulted right into the mainstream media.
But as Louis points out, with his amazing place, the C.T. Louis down in Murray's, we get a plug-in for him because there were iterations. It didn't happen all at once. It took, from about 1970 or 65 to the present, to where now it's morphing into the cell phone, and kids can make television on their cell phone. They're going to be able to make a television channel and stream it from their cell phone. It's amazing.
I think it's like an avalanche. It began with a few snowballs coming down the side of the mountain, and now with the advent of YouTube and cell phones that take video and everything else, it's become just an incredible thunderous roar at the bottom of the mountain.
I think you're right. And the pace, it's becoming exponential, and it's coming out of the labs of a digitally evolving world that was just a gleam in the eye of most of us, even when we got started back in the 70s. The computer was over the horizon yet, in any effective terms. So we've been going through an incredible transformation in terms of media and extended media, extended consciousness that media is over this period.
And what is made possible is it's enabled people like myself to go out and explore worlds and events and things that ordinarily the major media would either ignore or consider too controversial. And it enables people to have the power. You can expose corruption or a bad situation, like you said, Rodney King, violence. You can document things and make the major media pay attention. And that sort of leads into the videos that I brought today, because I've gotten interested in the issues of gender. I was a cloning activist. Now I'm interested in issues of gender, and that's transgender. They're people who maybe, if you're male, you identify as a female. You feel you're a female trapped in a male body. If you're a female, you feel that you're a male trapped in a female body. And so you have what you call trans women or trans men.
Is that relatively rare or
it's not that common. But what's interesting about it is that while your gender may change, in our society, we don't differentiate between gender and sexual orientation. And so we assume that if you're a woman, you're attracted to a man. And
unless you're a lesbian. Lesbians
but I'm saying if you're a trans woman. But the fact of the matter is that there are men who are married who become transsexuals, and they go from being heterosexual married men, technically because they're biologically male, to being actually legally married homosexual lesbian. They become a lesbian.
It gets very confusing.
Because, what it is if you find women attractive or if you find men attractive, it doesn't matter. You continue to find those same people attractive, even after you transition your gender. See, this is where we get confused. We don't understand that sexual orientation is different than gender identity. And about 20% of transsexuals are what I call, and some of them themselves call, heterosexual transsexuals. In other words, I think if a man begins biologically as a male who likes women, and he has a gender transition, he transitions into being a woman and goes from being a straight man to being a lesbian, I still think that I identify him as a heterosexual transsexual because maybe I'm stuck to where he began. Because it doesn't change who you're attracted to. I think they asked Christine Jorgensen, well, now you're a woman. Why wouldn't you have sex with a man when you? This is one of the first questions before you had the transition.
Yeah, that goes
and
way
she said,
back.
she said, "Oh, that would be against my religion." And for that reason, I came to, and I think a lot of people come to these erroneous conclusions that Christine Jorgensen, transsexuals were just guilt-ridden homosexuals who mutilated themselves to fit into society. And I began early on.
Well, she goes way back.
I began early on. What's interesting about me is I was transphobic. I was one of those people who just had no understanding, all those transsexuals, forget it, right? Because I didn't understand the issues. And over a period of about 20 years, I got to know a few individual people who were incredible human beings, Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, who totally changed my view on this issue. And I came to appreciate the problems, and these people are the most persecuted people in the world. I mean, they go into the New York Welfare Department and they'll say, oh, if you want welfare, go home and put on the right clothes and come back and then we'll talk to you. They just passed a law at the Human Resources Administration saying that they can't do that to people anymore. But these people are murdered.
What does that mean, put on the right clothes?
In other words, someone goes in and they see that this person is not dressed in a way that's appropriate for their gender. It's a male wearing female attire or a female dressed in male attire. And literally just because of the social prejudices of the interviewer, they would be able to look at them and say, oh, look, don't bother me. I'm not going to deal with you. You go home and get yourself addressed appropriately and, then come back. And
you
they would literally
be kidding.
They would deny
why
social.
Can't people dress
and then
whatever they want?
If they get arrested and they're say a lot of them are reduced to things like prostitution because they can't get a job, because even if you pass as a member of the sex, your ID says your name is, if you might be a female, but your ID says you're John Smith. Or if you're a female, if you're male, you're a female. Your identity will say you're Susan Jones. Or if you're female, it'll say John Smith. So you can't go into a regular job and get a regular job. So a lot of them are forced by circumstances into prostitution. So then when they're arrested, first, there's the brutality of the police and the macho attitudes there. Then they will sometimes throw these people. And now you imagine what happens if a guy that's dressed like a feminine, somebody who could pass as a woman, is thrown into a jail tank or a holding cell with a bunch of male criminals they're picked up on the street. I mean, horrible things happen to these people. And so there are all kinds of issues involved with this that
it is complicated. I hadn't even thought.
And they have such problems. I tell you, Harold, I'm so glad that I did not have any gender identity issues. I mean, we never think of these things that we are lucky to have in life. And the fact that I didn't have to spend my life fighting these internal and external battles about whether I'm a man or a woman.
Right, it must be. There's these kind of things that are there, but I mean, it must be really intense in that. And it's quite a few people, and there's these prejudices directed against them.
Prejudice is an understatement.
Marlene Dietrich used to dress in a tuxedo. So now a tuxedo was supposed to be the attire of a gentleman. Right. As she would dress in that and and there's cross.
That's when you get. That's the next level down. Then you get into cross dressers. Now some transsexuals, there's tension here because some transsexuals will say about cross dressers they're sexual fetishists. I mean, there are all kinds of divisions in this community. But I have an interview on the internet with a guy who says I'm a man, and then I go home and I go from being a heterosexual man, I put on a dress and become a lesbian. So he literally has two gender identities that he switches back and forth between.
Boy, oh boy!
I mean, it gets so complicated.
Life's tough enough without such things.
Yeah, but what's great about it is that it knocks these, ticky-tacky little boxes all just the same. Yeah. It just demolishes those categories of male and female, straight and gay, all these neat little labels we like to put on people.
Yeah, right.
And I think it gets to the essential question of what is it that makes a male, and what is it that makes a female?
Well, I told you myself, I'm working on that, but I don't even want to hardly go into it because I'm trying to get to the male and female functions in the universe. Because the whole process goes back before there was even sexual identity at all. I mean, it was not, most of the evolutionary process of once we got to organic process, beginning RNA, DNA, or something, it was bacteria, and there were uniform spongiforms at the beginning, and then there was an impetus. Well, I don't even want to go into it because it's hard for people to understand.
Right.
But and Fuller would identify there's only two things in the universe molecularly. There's tension and there's compression. Tension is tension integrity that goes through the hole, and then there's compression in the hole, and that's all that exists. And so one would be female, one would be male. Tensional integrity going through would be male, and it would be not only characteristic of people or animals, anthers and stamen in biology, but also right down to the molecular level. So if we got down to tension, and the tensional integrity is the male that goes through that wants to resonate on the edge of the compression in order to arrive at punctuated equilibrium where there would be a qualitative change in the evolutionary process.
What you're doing, you're approaching a very mundane, what I'd say very mundane, ordinary subject as we generally experience it in a very philosophical, abstract manner. And you'll see when we see these two videos.
Yeah, you got videos.
I have two videos. First is an interview with a transsexual named Samantha. I ran into her at Madame Tussauds Museum. They were having a social networking event.
The one over on 42nd Street?
Yeah. It was a social networking event. We went up and I was with a friend. Yeah. And my friend said, who is that drag? That was a drag queen. Who's that drag queen mannequin over there?
What's a drag queen?
The drag queen is a homosexual who isn't necessarily transsexual, but sometimes male homosexuals two things will happen. For entertainment, they'll dress up and be parodies of women. Big butt breasts, thick lipstick, like Dolly Parton and Marilyn Monroe.
Right.
Actually, a lot of women get offended. They say they're caricatures of women.
Yeah.
And they do this either for entertainment or they do this to attract men, as imitation women.
It could be part of a show business personality.
You will notice that this first person I talked to, Samantha, when she says that all she really wants to do is be able to walk down the street and have no one notice her. That's one of the signs of a true transsexual. They're not interested in getting attention or being a star or being Marilyn Monroe II. They're interested in simply being accepted as the gender that they feel that they are.
Oh, that is an important question. And so you're setting it up in a certain sense to tape. You brought some tape in.
Yes, tapes.
And you've got a lot of videotape. You got a lot up on YouTube.
I have 250 or something on YouTube. Yeah. And I'd say about 30 or 40 focus on transgender issues of all
really?
Types.
30 or 40 of those, right?
Yes.
On that issue.
And they're among the most popular. The first one you'll see has gotten 116,000 hits.
That's a lot of hits,
And I've never understood why. Some videos, I call it growing legs. They just become, they just get more and more popular. Well, other ones that are excellent just sit there and die.
Growing legs is a good term, old-fashioned term. That idea is growing legs and walking right across the world. Yeah, right, like a frog. Okay, we're talking, and then why don't we set that up? I guess it runs about 8 minutes. A couple pieces, might be a little bit of black between them. We're talking with Randolfe Wicker, and why don't we set it up and run that now then, please? If you can pump it in here so we can hear it, appreciate. And again, Randolfe Wicker is our guest, and let's run that tape now then, please. And, okay.
Mind you up. What are you doing? I never actually saw it. You were on it? You're on it. Yeah, I never saw it. I haven't. It was very good. What brings you to the center of Madame Tussauds Wax Museum? You have a thing for President Kennedy? You know? He's my hero. Let's go talk to him. I mean, he came to Ireland in June '63, and ever since then I can vaguely remember it. I kind of feel it. He's my hero. We're the same height in heels. I know. His hair is supposed to be perfect. I get to it. You're fine. I'm thinking of going to Thailand and getting... Thailand, they're going to love you as a blog. Facial feminization. Everyone reminds me against it. But what would that mean? Changing the jaw? Changing the jaw, the forehead, you know... Against it? Are you against it? Well... I just want to live with a woman, and I'm sick of the harsh, the hard, it's so hard, so so hard to do it, and I'm just looking for someone to kind of reassure me that I'm making the right decision.
You look happy when I saw you today. I think that's more important.
Yeah, I know.
You've got the money, spend it. As you can see from around us, you can't take it with you.
I know, it's true. Yeah, I know. But I just love to just kind of like walk around and say, well, and no one takes notice of you. You just like blend in. But like every day in New York, it's hard. You know, like it's really, really hard.
But I see you as Samantha.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
What's your name?
Samantha Jones.
Can I use this on my blog?
Of course. Of course, it's like after Sex in the City. Actually, I took a picture of Kim Cattrall.
I didn't see her. Where is she?
Well, no, she was actually just a poster. I really admire her. Because
I have a number of transgender and transsexual blogs on my site. I'll give you my card.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Are you a photographer?
I'm a vlogger. I put video on the internet. I put the first transgender march last year, and I have a lot of stuff up on my site.
Really?
Yeah, you might find. I'll give it to you, and if you send me an email, I'll dig out the links and send, because I have over 100 blogs. I'll send you the links to the ones that you'll find most interesting.
Okay, I'd really be very, very grateful for that. It's fantastic.
But I'm disappointed because I don't want to like embarrass Ryan. He said, look, there's a drag queen. There's a drag queen mannequin. Who is that? And I looked and I didn't know, and you were looking down. You were looking down, and then you looked up and you moved. I said, that's not her figure.
I thought you were
She's a visitor.
Really?
Yeah, you thought you were Monica Lewinsky with a wig.
That's what I thought. That's a real person.
What do I need? I'm just trying to get my cheeks done, which I have any idea about, because everyone says silicone injections are really, really dangerous. I want to get my cheeks full.
Just walk with your head up in the air and your smile on your face, and you'll be the one that everyone wants you to
I think personality is more important than
yes.
having fun. Really, I really think that people overcome more with their personality and their presence of personality than they do with features.
To like fight the jeers.
Keep changing your hair color, keep changing your outfit so you find out who you are.
Right.
It's a lot cheaper.
Do you think blonde
masqueraders at Dyke playing football or something. You'd be surprised. Once you really were trying to like pretend that you were a butch woman pretending to be masculine, you might suddenly be accepted as a real woman.
I know. Yeah, but I'm getting the Adam's apple taken away anyway. That's one thing.
In Thailand or in
Thailand?
And what does that cost?
I think about 2,000. A whole sex change only costs 5.
In Thailand, not in the States.
And what does it cost here?
25 to 30.
Between what?
25 and 30,000. And he throws in breast for 3 extra thousands. Like in a package deal, like breast and vagina for $8,000. It's pretty good. So if you really were into it, that would be like, I think Thailand, because they do so many transsexual operations every day. I actually talked to the surgeon.
Have you watched Transgeneration, the series on Sundance?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you should. I mean, there's an Asian girl who's a subject he would never know. Who he would never know was anything other than female. I mean, she was lucky because she was small and petite.
Have you ever heard of the lady boys in Bangkok?
Of course,
yeah. Because I've got a friend that lives in Bangkok, and he said he sees lady boys all the time. They look so beautiful. You know, I don't know. I just want to be able to pass as a woman. Everyone's saying,
but even in Bangkok, you're going to be the tall, beautiful lady from America.
But how do you know when you're not passing as a woman?
Well, because you're walking down the street and like even in 14th Street, they sort of say, you know, there's a dude over there dressed as a girl, and like people snickering and everything. And I'm sick of that. I can't stand that anymore. I want to just walk down the street and everyone, no one takes notice of you. Then you know you're making it.
We are thankful tonight for the opportunity to gather together to remember and honor those who have come before us. We thank you for their lives and their courage that enables us to walk a little more freely in this world. We remember all of those who have gone into your care tonight and pray that you grant them peace. We pray for courage for all of us gathered here, for the strength to be ourselves and to live with honesty and integrity. We are thankful for the gift of life and thankful for the uniqueness we all bring to this world. And we are especially thankful for those we remember here tonight. Amen.
Amen. Okay, so here we are at Trans Day of Remembrance, and I'm talking to...
I'm Shay Kearns.
And are you trans?
I am, yes.
Trans man?
Yes. Yes.
And I know they talked about the group. I did a thing on the Trans Masculine Network on YouTube.
Yeah.
And you're the newest member, sort of the trans community, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm a community minister at Judson Memorial Church, which is on Washington Square Park, and then I'm also working through Judson with the Trans Masculine Community Network.
Oh, you were the one that read this prayer.
Yes. Yep.
Amazing. You don't when they're in a black and red jacket, they look like everyone else. It's only when they put on a collar you don't even recognize them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a very, very nice reading of the prayer, and they do it 3 times in a row. It's funny, we learn by doing, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was just happy to be able to represent a positive clergy face, and show people.
You actually are clergy.
Yes. I'm a minister at Judson, so it's just really important for me to be here and to represent people of faith who are non-judgmental. And
does Judson have a number of trans people in the congregation, or?
They do not at this point, but they're very welcoming, and they're a really great community. They're doing a lot of work within the community. And
when I was a gay activist in the early 60s, Judson Memorial Church was the first place that I was invited to go and talk to college students that were on summer programs. They have always been a very progressive, incredible fountain of hope and enlightenment in this city.
Yeah, Judson has a great history, and I'm really proud to be a part of that and proud to help them do their work.
Well, I'm proud to have been able to talk to you about it. I don't want you to miss your train. You said you're getting close to missing it, right?
Yeah, got to head back to Jersey. So.
Thank you. Have a safe trip.
Thank you. Take care.
So that was really interesting. You had that one, I mean, the trials and tribulations of people in that, and yet also the pleasures and the joys of their presence is something you've been involved with for quite a long time and everything. It's a whole other world for most of us, but
yes,
it's very interesting and has great nuance. Yeah,
and it has many dimensions. The reason I put in the minister video, which I just put up last night, is that I don't think people realize that these people are essentially just like all other human beings.
Right.
They basically are decent people, and they're brutalized by society. And not only that, they're also told by society that they're immoral, they're wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Especially probably male to female more than female to male. We're more tolerant of tomboys, women that aspire to be manly than we are to men.
Yeah.
Who aspire to be a female.
Mm-hmm. How widespread is it in world society?
I think it's something like maybe 1%.
1% of the
population. It depends on how you define it. Because if you start getting into very, say, cross-dressers and all, I don't think it's much more than that, really. It's a small community, very misunderstood.
And that can be a source of a lot of nasty prejudice being directed, right?
These are the people that get...
And it's good that people will be able to come out and counter that.
And interestingly...
and not be cowed by it.
A large number of transsexuals in the past didn't come out to their 50s. I have an interview with a guy called Dad Goes Trans at 56. He was a married man.
Dan goes what?
Goes trans. Dad goes trans.
Oh, trans.
He was a father, married man, heterosexual,
right,
who had a teenage son, and he transitioned from male to female. His wife didn't like it very much, but interestingly, he and his son, for the first time, were able to start having a dialogue and a communication they never had before.
Really?
But just imagine how strange it must be. I mean, in a way, maybe it's very humbling. Maybe it totally demystifies a parent, for a parent to be in that position.
Yeah, it is interesting. They're just having that thing in the military now about show or tell, don't show or something, or that they're trying to change or address it. But it's not being addressed in the way that it ought to be by society.
The military issue is mainly issued just to homosexuals. As a matter of fact, I marched in the Veterans Day Parade with a group that most, even homosexual male veterans groups, discriminate against trans people. Because, the military is very macho and sort of worships at the altar of traditional masculinity.
I hated the military.
And this one group, Josephine, the man who goes trans at 56, is a veteran who carried the banner for AVER, the American Veterans for Equal Rights, in the Veterans Day Parade.
Okay. Well,
and yet most homosexual groups are, like I said, male homosexuals are more prejudiced against trans people, in my opinion, than heterosexuals are, because I think a heterosexual can understand why someone would want, if it was a male, would want to be beautiful like a woman. A homosexual just can't understand that at all. It just assaults everything that they worship.
It's an interesting, yeah, right. It's an interesting thing, and again, it's like, you know, anything that challenges people's sense of identity or something is something they're very nervous about. There's all kinds of prejudice and everything like that. And where the hell would we be if we didn't have those people in our midst who bring so much style and grace and everything into the world?
And people who challenge
the rest of the world is so dull compared to the kind of flair that is brought into things by those people. It seems to me, doesn't it to you? I guess it does. You know them, yeah.
Right.
Huh?
Well, I mean, not only that,
and interest,
but now
variety.
You have movies like Trans America, and then there was a series on Sundance Channel called Transgeneration. They follow 5 or 6 college students that transition while going to college. Both male to female and female to male students. So there's an awareness now on YouTube. There are kids that are 17, 18 years old, high school students in Jersey, who come out as transsexuals in school. And this causes a fracas because they say, oh, they don't want them to use the female bathroom, or they refuse to use they don't want them to use the male bathroom. Right. So this one instance, they have them use the nurse's bathroom. But it's incredible that at this day and age, they've managed to network with one another through video, through images, and create their own world of communication.
We were talking about Rodney King and so forth. The video presence in our world is becoming more and more ubiquitous. I mean, it's just almost becoming, we have a thing at our door now where you can see who's ever at the door with a video thing. And then also it's being used by people to spy on people. And so it's a two-headed sword, isn't it? The video transformation of communication. Some of it's being used for what would be like a Brave New World or 1984 type kind of intrusion into privacy.
Right. There's a new thing called I Spy that they're selling. It's
What's
a bit pricey. You can put it in someone's computer, and without them knowing it, through their webcam, see what they're doing, listen to their conversations with people.
Even though it's not turned on?
Yeah, well, the whole thing is that people don't know it's there. You're using your computer, you have your webcam on.
Yeah,
you don't know that somebody else is listening to what you're saying to someone and watching what you're doing on the spy. They had a case where they did this in school and caught these students doing things. There was an issue of whether they had engaged in inappropriate behavior of some sort. And this all said, oh, we have proof, because here, we have videotape proof of it. And then that raised the issue of, hey, where's privacy in this world?
Well, is that true? That's a software thing?
That's a software. It's called I Spy. Yes.
And I
could put it in your computer without you knowing it.
It has to be installed in the computer of the person.
I believe so, right.
Yeah,
somehow there's a way you can install it. I'm not sure whether you're going to install it from outside or not. You might be able to, but the whole thing is that I could get it in your computer. You would never know it was there. And then whenever you were on your computer,
with the webcam,
I could eavesdrop on what you were saying, even if you weren't using the webcam. And you would have no idea. And
it wouldn't click on. You wouldn't know that it's on.
No.
Well, now that's a problem, isn't it?
That's eavesdropping. This is a new sophisticated form of eavesdropping.
Well, they've got eavesdropping too with the algorithms. It's amazing how much they can do. So it's a brave new world that's emerging from the internet. You've taken to it like a duck to water, have you not? Because you were doing film back in 1971 with your CV or whatever you call it, and a Portapack. You were very, very early on because you were doing it politically and so forth.
Right, politically. And also socially, I filmed the the wedding. It was a drag wedding, and I heard the groom's mother was going to be there, and I thought, my God, this guy is marrying a drag queen. In my opinion, drag queen. I didn't understand transsexuals in those days. And the mother's going to be there. I have to film this.
I see.
I filmed it. That happened to be the couple. He became famous for Dog Day Afternoon.
No kidding.
Yes.
No.
And I ended up negotiating that movie and everything because I went to prison and ran into the mother who remembered me from the wedding, and I became the one that negotiated with Life magazine, who wrote the stories. They said, look, they're going to use pictures of the wedding and all.
Is that the thing with Pacino?
Huh?
Is that the film with Pacino?
Yeah, I showed my footage to Pacino.
Well, that's a hell of a film, yeah. Right.
I showed my footage to Pacino, and I'm sitting there, and I think this guy from he looks like a pizza delivery boy.
Yeah, right.
Comes in, sits there, and casually says to me, asks me questions about the video, and I say, yeah. I later discovered it was Al Pacino. See, I'm not one of these star wise people, right? Or not just as what didn't. Also, you don't realize when you see movie stars, we're used to seeing movie stars a certain way.
That's
and you
true.
see a guy that's just coming
Just
in, looks
sitting there.
ordinary, and you
Yeah.
think, well, he's probably a pizza delivery
Yeah,
boy.
right, yeah.
You know, unless you're really aware of exactly what people look like.
Yeah, right.
And they look differently each movie. I mean, occasionally maybe you've seen movies where suddenly you realize, oh, this actor, he was the one that played, or this actress, she was the one that played, because women more than men. You can't.
Yeah. But you got everybody's acting in their own play or something.
Right.
Everybody's like an actor. So many people want to be actors. Have you ever thought about that? Why so many people want a role, and they want a role to play rather than just to lead their life?
I don't want to get all the actors and actresses in the world mad at me, but
No,
I think
but I bet you got a lot of friends among them. They're a
ego.
great community. Yeah.
I know, but I think it's an ego, sort of like, I think it's seeking approval. You know, I think these are people that basically have either a weak self-identity or something, or for some reason need the approval and the applause, the limelight of masses of other people to validate themselves.
You think so? The acting profession?
I feel sorry.
I get problems.
Most actors and actresses starve to death. When I was in Hollywood,
well, most artists starve to death. I think artists is not recognized
unless they prostitute their art. If they do a commercial, they become commercial or graphic artists, and you do something, you make advertisements.
Yeah.
You're no longer really being creative. You're picking the color blue that should be in the background as a plane lands in some sort of an aircraft ad.
Or the normal thing is with artists, I was a pond who called them the attendant of the race. They pick up things early. I mean, I think Picasso Cubism was presaging quantum mechanics. I mean, there's a connection, but they're picking things up because they're very sensitive and everything like that sort of thing. And so they're coming up with something, and then they got something that's new, and it's hard to understand because most people are stuck in a rut of accepting what has come out of history, for that matter. But something new is very hard, and so, like, the standard one is, Vincent van Gogh painting all those paintings, and the people,
and then they died.
They said, give us something that fits into the Rijksmuseum or what we're used to, and he had these things, and he didn't give any credit to him until things would fetch $35 million at Sotheby's.
But he died.
But he was ahead of the curve.
Poor, but he died dirt poor. Never recognized in his lifetime.
Yeah, but is that characteristic of the artists in general, because they're so ahead of their time? Let's just say they're ahead of their time. They're sensing things from the ether or from the existence that it's hard to put down in a rational sense, a marketing term, a brand or something like that, so that the artists are not able, are treated not well, and there's no, you understand what I'm saying? That very short shrift is given to the artist as opposed to, let's say, somebody who is ready to prostitute that art for some commercial.
There are people that just hit the stride right, like Andy Warhol with his Campbell's soup cans. I mean, that was very contemporary. I'm not a fan of Andy Warhol.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
But I mean, he hit it big time. And
then all of our stars,
I think, overly famous.
And then we have our stars like Yo-Yo Ma or Man. Or we have the stars, or Tiger Woods in golf or something. We have stars, and that's who we're a starstruck society, looking for others to do it.
Yeah, I don't understand. We live in a society where people have to live their lives vicariously through following the lives of celebrities.
It is very celebrity-driven, don't you think?
It's so sad.
Even the whole political process, the president and the vice president, and that. And then intellectually, the economist of the du jour, and the theory and all that. It's all star-studded, and it's not, they're not picking up things comprehensively. It's all coming out of a world where it's all specialized into things. And so we've been here 200,000 years, and we still don't have a system in place with all the attention that's been given to the intellectual development and the creative. We do not have a system in place that the future requires in a liberated mode, other than the one we've inherited out of history. We still haven't got it right.
We think in cliches. We live by sound bites. On YouTube, you learn that the best viewed videos are only 3 minutes long. It's considered the really people that get millions of views generally have videos that are 2.5 to 3 minutes long, because that is the attention span of the average viewer.
Right.
There are excellent videos that might be 9.5 minutes long, and no matter how good they are, because people are not complex enough, or they're not interested enough to really follow a complicated thought.
Well, I think we were talking about an earlier program aired a couple of days ago, but it's like particularly the youth are moving so quickly now because the technology is coming so quickly. It's coming exponential. The rate of the increase is increasing. in terms of the bandwidth and the capability that's coming. It was very slow starting and so forth. Now it's coming, and it's like a period of exponential increase. Like in evolution, we're coming to a moment of qualitative transformation on a large systems pattern scale. The whole system is being put to challenge when you got extended consciousness where the weapons are species lethal for the first time in this time, and the possibility of a liberated order other than the very truncated liberation that's been able to be realized throughout history. All the institutions were formulated in a context that's been transformed at the level of capability. The artists are attuned to the level of capability, and we don't have a system yet that draws upon what we're able to do in a liberated order, because we're all entranced to the ideas that we've inherited out of history.
And
it's time. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, we think you're doing is you're simply giving a very complicated and accurate description of life. And why is it that way? Because we live in a society, even with the mass media, where the soundbite is everything. Death panels.
Well,
politicians live and die by one mistake. Muskie cried in New Hampshire, and someone named Romney, I think Romney's father, claimed he made the mistake. I was brainwashed. Something about the communists that ended his career.
I can remember Mr. I remember doing a program with a
Vice President Dan Quayle, who misspelled potato. And some of these things you can say, well, maybe there's some legitimacy in some of them, but the fact of the matter is that you can't take a complicated situation and a complicated world and make a complicated, sensible discussion or decision based on sound bites and 30-minute statements.
It's very interesting, but what the youth are doing is they're another thing that we're very good at, the consciousness. It comes out of neural nets and the things that came from the computer and pattern recognition. We're very good at pattern recognition, and we're moving into a multimedia world that has only just been over the last 4 or 5 decades. We're coming to it, and and that's the way we are. We are multimedia creatures. We experience things in terms of multisensorial capability. We're like that as we walk through the world, and we're getting now to where the media is mimicking in that. And the kids have a very short attention span. The younger they are, because they're picking up on patterns. And there may be something good to be said from that, rather than picking up on a long, strung-out, linear perception, which is the way we're used to putting together our thoughts and our institutions and everything, with experts in various fields who will take care of things. But it may be that war is too important to be left to the generals, or economics is too important to be left to the economists, but the specialists who come, and they don't have a system after all these years which is really appropriate to a liberated order, other than one that we've inherited out of history where we've never had that. We've always had a ruling class that rules over the people, rather like quasi-slavery, and we still have it. It's still in place. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
A moment of liberation may be at hand.
Right.
It may be. Judith Malina. Did you know Julian Beck and that?
I don't know who they are.
Yeah. They're great. We just agreed the other day. We're at a point now, and Isaac Asimov said it in a program. He said, "This is the most consequential generation in the history of the evolution of consciousness involving humanity. This generation, right now, not 10 years."
And actually, the fact that we do live in a media-saturated universe. There are two sides of the equation. You can say they have short attention spans because they like the excitement. Give me the glitz, the stuff that catches their attention. But on the other hand, the existence of things like the amount of human knowledge. You can go on Google, whatever subject you're interested in, and Google it, and you can find out more than you ever dreamed
and we've
about
only
any
begun.
subject.
Yeah, and we've only begun.
So the libraries of the world are now available to every human being, which never existed before.
Okay, that's true. We had the library. Remember the stacks? Remember I spent years of my youth in the stacks of libraries getting the card catalogs and all.
More.
Yeah, you're right. But the point being is that's increased. The amount that we've only just begun. They're going to improve search tremendously. They're going to be able to do it.
The thing is, what do they spend their time reading? Do they read about Paris Hilton? Or do they read about the nuclear disarmament treaties?
Well,
the whole thing is that you start competing in this world. It sort of becomes a world. Knowledge becomes a world of show business, and the thing that has the most glitz gets the most attention. You probably get more hits on a video about Paris Hilton than you will on some serious thing about the end of the world.
It's like it's like page 6. There's rumor, and it's that people are at that level, and you got all levels of capability. The Balinese have a saying: "We have no art; we do everything as well as possible." Everybody could be involved. Is everybody capable of being an artist, or is it a rare thing for a few? The idea of stardom is a thing that makes it a rare thing. The Balinese say we have no art, we do everything as well as possible. There's 100 trillion cells in a human organism, and every cell matters. It's not as though you just have a few stars. Every cell matters. They're different, but they're cells, and they make a system, and we make a system. So every person really does matter, but we look to stars because we're attracted to that. The emperors of Rome or the kings or whoever was the sovereign and all the kind of things that gave legitimacy. But it's a thing where it's going to have to include everybody, like the human society in an orchestra. Well, and when you have an orchestra and you only hear the tubas, you don't hear the timpani, and you don't hear the body politic, the body electric, or Wiltman was saying, the artist would say, that there's something democratically that's coming for the whole of the society and the ecology, and our leaders and our institutions are out of date with what's required, and we ought to get ourselves together because we don't have a system in place that the future requires for a liberated order, rather than possibly blowing up the whole human species and joining entropy in this universe. And what I'm saying, that's not been characteristic of any other moment in human history. That's the characteristic moment we have. Now we're falling down on the job because we haven't given sufficient attention to it.
Because we have concentration of power. Now a few bad guys with an atom bomb can decimate New York City with 8 million people in it.
Yeah, well, they could do that. I think it's
you know, it's interesting because you're talking about ways of thinking. Mm-hmm. There was a very interesting book. I saw it. I watch Booknotes every weekend on C-SPAN.
Isn't it great?
Oh,
Brian Lamb. God bless Brian Lamb. Yeah.
The best thing that I have every week is watching Booknotes.
Yeah.
It's what I hated when I worked on weekends.
Yeah.
I couldn't watch all the programs on Booknotes.
Yeah.
But they had a woman on who was autistic, and I forget what special accomplishment she had, but she explained that being autistic, she thought in pictures. It was a different way of thinking than most of us think in a linear fashion.
Yeah, linear is what we've had since Gutenberg.
Right. And people, and not only that, I think what's interesting, because we get in this area of special talents and unique ways, for some reason, getting back to the transsexual thing, a great number of trans people, for reasons I can't fathom, are computer geeks.
Are they really?
Yes,
that's
very interesting. They almost all
unusually high percent.
They design websites. These are people that have a real something about, must be the congruence of the personality or something. But they have a lot of them earn their living designing websites and doing all this computer stuff.
Well, a lot of people are doing that in general, but you think the percentage is higher among them.
Oh, I tell you,
that's interesting.
It's almost like a joke. I mean, someone who's a geek, I think, sexual.
Oh, really?
I know that's going a bit far, but I'm just saying that it's
a
very
interesting
high
observation. Yeah, but we're in that kind of a position now, and everything. And it's the most incredible period of time ever, and everything. I think it's. They're looking for patterns. People are they're not looking for a long, strung-out dissertation, a big, thick book, Mr. Gibbon, another big, fat tome, Mr. Gibbon, that goes on endlessly. And Fuller, who was a polymath, I count you a polymath. I think that's a great accolade.
Flattered.
That's somebody who's interested in everything, or interested in a wide variety, not specialized. The mark of the modern age is to specialize in order to become rare, and therefore you get economic power because you've got something nobody else has or something. But Fuller, who was a polymath, maybe the greatest polymath, Isaac Asimov, there are a few people, McLuhan, who think really comprehensively, he said that there was a conscious thing on the part of the sea masters who run the world. Used to be the emperors of Rome, then it was the kings in the dynastic states, now it's the bankers or whoever runs it, but that they think comprehensively, and they consciously gave money to set up graduate schools because they're not worried about the dullards. They're worried about the smart ones, and they get the smart ones so specialized out on some aspect of reality in order to gain credence and to set up a peer review thing that would keep it narrow, in order to co-opt, what do you call it? divide and conquer intellectually
Right.
the challenges to the system
So
that they think.
they become the top in their field.
Well,
Now,
they become in their field, but the people who are running things comprehensively are the ones who are really running the show and setting all the templates for all the institutions.
I'll give an example from my own life. I became a human reproductive cloning activist, and people would call me up and they would start, you could tell they thought I was some sort of a joke. But the fact of the matter is, I knew I could discuss genetics, I could discuss bioethics, I could discuss any issue related to cloning, and my knowledge was maybe 1 foot deep. Now, there isn't a field. You could find a geneticist that knew a lot more about genetics than I did. You could find a bioethicist who knew much more about ethical issues. But I was one of the few people, because I was dealing with this issue that touched on all these things.
That's called pattern recognition.
And I became, I mean, my picture was in Time magazine. I became the leading spokesperson. I debated the head of the Catholic League on MSNBC before George Bush's stem cell speech.
Good.
And it's funny, I always said the important issue was stem cell research, not reproductive cloning, because they were making that a bogus issue. And what's happened now is Nancy Reagan and Ron Reagan came along, and my career suddenly came to an end. And now, if I play some of the old debates, and I have one or two on the internet, oh, they not only hold up, everyone agrees today.
There you go.
I mean, you know, the issue isn't reproductive cloning. You know, for a few abortion people, anti-abortion people, it may be the fate of one cell. But the real issue is whether we're going to allow science